We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph in Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 36a. The Gemara continues. Mesev Rav Shimi bar Abba. Rav Shimi bar Abba asks the following question from a brisa. The brisa says, "Im haya kohen." Let's say the individual is a kohen. That's the individual who's not allowed to be giving benefit to the muder hana. He happens to be a kohen. So still, the brisa says, "Yizrok olav dam chataso v'dam ashamu." He's allowed to be zorik the dam of the person's carbon chatas or the person's carbon asham. In other words, it's not considered to be a benefit for the kohen to be doing the offering of the carbon chatas and the carbon asham on behalf of this individual. And the Mefarish over here explains, "Im haya kohen hamadir." We're talking about again the madir is a kohen, the one who's not supposed to be giving any benefit to the other individual is a kohen. So Yizrak olav dam chatas of dam asham. He's allowed to be zorek the blood of his carbon chatas or the blood of his carbon asham. Katani stam demashma kol chatos v'ashamos. It says the stam. It sounds like any carbon chatas, any carbon asham. V'yafagav de lo mechusrei kapara ninu. Even though we're not talking about a carbon of a mechusrei kapara. On the previous Amud, the Gemara was not sure when we say that a kohen is allowed to do the avoda on behalf of the muder hana. So the Gemara wasn't sure, is that true by all karbanos or is that true only by the karbanos of mechusrei kapara? And it sounds like from this brisa it's true by all karbanos. The kohen can always do the avoda on behalf of this individual. And so the Gemara answers, "Dam chataso shel mitzora, v'dam ashamo shel mitzora." Could be this brisa simply means the dam of the carbon chatas of the mitzora, or the dam of the carbon asham of the mitzora, meaning it's specifically the chatas and the asham of mitzora, which is a mechusar kapara. As the Mefarish over here says, "Lo liolam shluchei didoninu." It could really be that when the kohen does avod on our behalf, he's our shliach, and therefore it is a problem for a kohen to do an avod on behalf of someone who's not allowed to get benefit from him. Umay dam chataso v'dam asham dekatani. So what does the brisa mean when it says the blood of his carbon chatas or the blood of his carbon asham? What does that mean? It means chataso shel mitzora dehainu mechusrei kapara v'chulu v'uadin legadol. It means to say we're talking again about the carbon of a mechusar kapara, meaning over here specifically the carbon of a mitzora, and that's why it is permitted. And the Gemara continues, Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, Zos tia Toras HaMitzora. It says this is the Toras HaMitzora, uses the same language that it uses by the other Mechusrei Kapara. Bein Gadol Levein Katan, and means exactly this idea, whether the individual is a Gadol, whether the individual is a Katan. That's what it means over here. Just like the carbon can be brought on behalf of the Katan, it means that you don't require Das Bailim. That's why the Karbanos of Mechusrei Kapara are different. And therefore, since again, it does not require Das Bailim, so in these Karbanos specifically, the Kohanim are not considered to be Shluchei Didon. And the Gemara continues to Nan. We learned in a Mishnah in Gittin, HaKohanim shepiglu b'mikdash. Let's say Kohanim, they perform the avoda for a Kohen and they make the carbon pigul, meaning they have the wrong thoughts at the time of bringing the carbon, which disqualifies the carbon. So the Mishnah says, Mizidin chayavin. So if they do this on purpose, they are chayiv. The Mefarish over here says, Mizidin chayavin l'shalim carbon l'bailim. If they do it b'mezid, they're chayiv to pay back the cost of the carbon to the owners. They have ruined the carbon on behalf of the owner, so they have to pay. And so the Gemara says, Hashogigin Petur, and it sounds like if they do it by mistake, so then they're patur, they do not have to pay. Elosha Pigul on Pigul. However, the fact that they had the wrong machshava at the time of bringing the carbon does in fact make the carbon pigul, and it does disqualify the carbon. And so the Gemara now says, Iamrit b'shalom shluchei d'shmaya have. If you're going to say correctly that the Kohen is considered a shliach of Shamayim, not considered our shliach, so hainu shepigul on Pigul. That makes sense that the wrong machshava that they had when they brought the carbon, that disqualified the carbon. But if you're going to say that the Kohen is considered our shliach, so amai pigul and pigul, so why should that disqualify the carbon? Lei malei, what he should say to him is as follows, meaning the owner of the carbon can say to the Kohen, shlicha shavisach, I made you my shliach, you're my shliach, l'sakune v'lo la'avuse, you're only my shliach for my benefit, but not in order to mess things up, and therefore the shlichus should not be a shlichus in terms of the pigul, and it shouldn't disqualify the carbon. And so the fact that it does disqualify the carbon, it sounds like they are really shluchei d'shmaya. And the Gemara says, no, Amri, they answer, Shani gave pigul, it is different when it comes to pigul. The Amar Kra, because the Pasuk says, Lo yechashev lo mikol makom. It says, Lo yechashev by pigul, it says that it's not considered anything, the carbon is not going to be considered a kosher carbon, and therefore we learn out, mikol makom, in any situation of pigul, it is going to disqualify the carbon. And the Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to what we said previously. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Hakol tzrichin das, all karbonos require the das of the bailim, chutz mi mechusar kapara, except for the karbonos of mechusar kapara. Sharei adam mevi karban albano v'albanos of hakatanim, because a person can bring the karbonos on behalf of his children who are katanim, who are minors. And so the Gemara continues, Ela me'ata, but according to that, Yavi Adam Chatas Chaylev al Chavera, a person should be able to bring a carbon chatas on behalf of his friend. When the Gemara refers to a standard carbon chatas, the Gemara refers to it as a chatas chaylev, a chatas being brought for eating chaylev. In any case, that should be true in other words of any carbon chatas. You should be able to bring it on behalf of your friend without his das. Why? Shekain Adam Mevi al Ishto Shota Rabbi Yehuda, because we said in the previous summit, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a person is allowed to bring a carbon on behalf of his wife, even if she is a shota, even if she's an imbecile, she doesn't have any das, and so therefore, assuming that that is true by all karbonos, even a regular carbon chatas, so then again, according to that logic, we should be able to bring a carbon chatas on behalf of someone else. So Allah Amar Rebbe Lazar. So why did Rebbe Lazar say Hefresh chatas chaylev al chaver lo asa klum, that if a person separates a carbon chatas on behalf of his friend, it's nothing, it doesn't work at all? And so the Gemara answers, Ishto shota hechidami. This case you have over here of a person bringing a carbon chatas on behalf of his wife who's a shota, what exactly is your case? Ida achla kishi shota, if she ate the chaylev when she was a shota, so lav bas carbon, she's not even obligated to bring a carbon chatas. V'ida achla kishi pikachas v'nishtatis. Now, if she ate it when she was a pikachas, when she was of sound mind, and then she became a shota, ha'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, amar Rabbi Avo, amar Rabbi Yochanan, but Rabbi Yirmiyah said that Rabbi Avo said that Rabbi Yochanan said, achal chaylev v'hifresh carbon v'nishtat. If somebody ate chaylev, then he separated his carbon, then he became a shota, then he became an imbecile. V'chaz and then he became of sound mind after that. Puzzle, so we say that's puzzle, that carbon is not brought, because since it was pushed off while he was a shota, so therefore the carbon is pushed off. And so you see, even in a situation, let's say, where she ate the chaylev when she was of sound mind, but if she later became a shota, so then it's going to be pushed off, there's not going to be a carbon. And so therefore the Gemara says you really don't have a case where a person brings a regular carbon chatas on behalf of his wife. But the Gemara continues, according to Rabbi Yochanan above, Yavi Adam Pesach al Chaver, a person should be able to bring a carbon Pesach on behalf of his friend without his das. Shekein Adam Mevi al Banav al Banosav HaKatanim, because we do find by carbon Pesach that a person brings the carbon on behalf of his children who are Katanim, who are minors. And again, according to Rabbi Yochanan, anytime you can bring the carbon on behalf of minors, so it should not require das. Aloma Amar Rebbe Lazar. So why did Rebbe Lazar say Hifresh Pesach al Chavero? If a person separates a carbon Pesach on behalf of his friend, lo asa klum, that's nothing, and it's not considered to be a good carbon Pesach. And so the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Zera says, Selebes avos lavdo raisa. This halacha that the lamb is brought for the entire household, including the minors, that is not a deoraisa halacha, and therefore you cannot ask from the fact that he brings on behalf of his children who are minors. And the Mefarish over here explains, Amar Rabbi Zera, Selebes avos demashma adam mevi pesach v'shochet al banav al banosav hakatanim. This pasuk of Selebes avos, which implies that a person brings a carbon pesach on behalf of his children who are minors, lav do raisu, that's not really a halacha, mido raisa, lahachi, and therefore hifresh pesach al chavero, if a person separates a carbon pesach on behalf of his friend, lo asav v'lo klum, that is not going to be effective. And the Gemara continues, Umimai, how do we know that Selebes avos is not Oraisa? Midetanan, it's from the Mishnah in Psachim, which says, Ha'omer levonav hareini shochet es ha'pesach al misha yalam mikem rishon Yerushalayim. If a person says to his sons, I'm shechting the carbon pesach, and it's going to be on behalf of whoever gets to Yerushalayim first. So Kevon shechnes rishon rosho v'ruba, once the first son enters Yerushalayim, his head and the majority of his body, zocha bechelko, so he's zocha in his portion of the carbon pesach. Umezaka es echavibon, he's also mezaka his brothers, they also get a portion of the carbon pesach. And so the Gemara says, V'yamr Selebes avos doraisa, if you're going to tell me that Selebes avos is a din doraisa, al bisra koyim izakilu, how is it that the brother is able to allow the other brothers to join in this carbon pesach if it's already been shechted? And the Ran over here explains, Al Bisra Koi Kesha'ola Zeh Kvar Nishchat. So the first pshat of the Ran is that even the first son, when he gets into Yerushalayim, it's already been shechted. V'im Kein Heich Nimna Olav. If so, how can he be registered for it? V'aksiv Miyos Miseh V'darshinan Michiyusa Deseh. Doesn't it have to be while the Seh is alive? U'mizaki Lahon Bitmiyo Heicha Av Mizaki Lechem Ibarav Achar Shchita. How could the father allow any of his sons to join after Shchita? Inami, or the Ran says, Hayu Mizakal Hemahu Ben Sha'ol Rishon Kai. The Gemara might mean, like we explained in the the Gemara. We're going on that first son who enters Yerushalayim. Heich mezake lechav. How is he able to be mezake to his brothers that they join the Karban Pesach? The Bishlama iu zachi dikalamemar kevan sha'ala rishon huvror shekeshe nishchar haPesach olav nishchar. You could say by him, since he was the first one, so retroactively it's clear that the shechita was done for him. Aval heich mezake lechav, but how could he be mezake to his brothers? V'achi mukach sugi in the Parakol Haget. This is proven that this is how to understand the sugi in Parakol Haget. And so therefore you see from this Mishnah that Sel Beis Avos is not Doraisa. But the Gemara continues, but then if that's the case, why did the father say, whoever gets to Yerushalayim first, if they're all going to be Zoche? And to that the Gemara says, that was just in order to encourage them to do the mitzvahs. Tanya Nami Hachi, the Gemara says, we learned in a brisa like this as well. Ma'isa, there was an incident like this. The Kadmu Banos Labanim, and the daughters actually got there before the sons. V'nimsu Banos Zerizos Ubanim Shfeilim. Turned out that the daughters, they were the ones who were quick to do the mitzvahs, and the sons, they were slow to do the mitzvah. And the Mefarish over here says, Tanya Nami Achi Kedei Lazarzim Kamar. The Bryce itself supports the idea that the father only said this in order to encourage them. And it doesn't say that the sons were not Yotze, it just says that they were Shveilim. It sounds like there really was no Chiyah for them on a Doraisa level. Ela Lazarzim Kamar. He was just doing it to encourage them. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, V'torah mes trumosa v'chulu. The Mishnah said that again in the case of a mudar hana, so the person who's not supposed to give benefit is allowed to take off truma on his behalf. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis.